Greetings, readers and travelers, and welcome to another special episode of Stats on Stats. My name is Richie Stevens, the host of this wonderful podcast. And tonight's episode is our Silver Tongue segment, where we are sitting down with Lydia Sherrer to talk about her series, The Transdimensional Hunter. I think we just lost her. Lydia? Crap. All right. Well, we're dealing with some tough technical difficulties now. Oh no. Okay, let's see. Well, anyways, Transdimensional Hunter is a book from Baen Publishing, and the first book is called Into the Real. It was my first read of the year, and it's very, yep, it's just me now. So now we got to play the waiting game for her to come back. Crap baskets. I'm just gonna improv for a minute because I don't like being on camera by myself. Crap. Oh. All right, and she's back. Woo! Welcome back. It's all good.
I was like, and here we are live, and I'm like, no, bye.
So, Lydia, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for me real quick?
Absolutely. I am Lydia Sherrer. I am an author of urban fantasy and science fiction. I am a hybrid author, which means that I have both books traditionally published and I have books independently published. So my urban fantasy is all stuff I do myself, and then I have science fiction written with John Ringo through Baen Books. And the science fiction one is what we're talking about tonight. It's a lit RPG written with John Ringo. The series is The Transdimensional Hunters, and we describe it as Ender's Game meets Pokemon Go meets Monster Hunter. And so this is book 2. Book 1 Through the Storm, or sorry, Into the Real came out a couple years ago, and Through the Storm is book 2 that came out last week. And if you enjoy high action, if you enjoy any kind of lit RPG like game involved literature, if you enjoy killing monsters, if you enjoy great character arcs, and if you enjoy anything by John Ringo, you will probably love these books.
Now, I can agree with the Monster Hunter and Pokemon Go. I didn't even compare Ender's Game for some reason. It just didn't really pop into my mind at all. When I tell people, I'm like, okay, so take Pokemon Go, mix it with a little Monster Hunter, and also Sword Art Online when they do the AR like movie.
Yep.
Do that, and that's what Into the Real is. Except there's a twist at the end of the first book,
of course,
that I did not see coming. I actually
that's the Ender's Game aspect.
And it actually, my mouth dropped, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." Pardon my French. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, so the Ender's Game thing, a lot of John Ringo readers are a little bit older because he's a little bit older and he's been writing for 30 years. And so I use the Ender's Game tie-in because a lot of the audience that I'm already like marketing to is the older crowd who grew up on Ender's Game and grew up on a lot of Orson Scott Card's books. But yeah, like newer stuff, I might even say, I mean, it's got a little bit of maybe Ready Player One in it, just in terms of the lit RPG genre. And that's the other like big lit RPG that people might have heard of. So,
I mean, we love lit RPG, and that's what this podcast is.
Absolutely,
Stats is a lit RPG podcast. We've had a ton of great authors on. I mean, we've had a couple of Baen authors on.
Well,
one we had Jacob Hollow, and of course HP Hollow. And that's actually how
Monster
I found
Punk
out about
Horizon, which is
love Monster
hilarious.
Punk. And of course, we had one episode dedicated to HP. Then we had another episode dedicated to HP and Jacob. And then we had, of course, another episode that was dedicated to the alternate persona of HP.
Yes.
To talk Titan Mage. We love.
Yes. Well,
the worst kept secret in lit RPG.
I always crack up whenever I read her Spice Rack Press posts.
Oh my god!
Yeah, the Titan
so
Mage
good.
post.
She's great.
So have you all met Dazzle yet?
Yes, I met Dazzle last night through or 2 nights ago. Yeah, it was 2 nights ago when they did the launch party for the Dyson File.
Jacob's new book that came out.
His solo book, which
his solo book
to Jacob.
Yeah, woo, go Jacob.
We love it. But no, I'm a Monster Hunter nut.
Oh
I
yeah.
I love Monster Hunter, and Zeckler, who is one of our mods for the channel, is also in the chat. Hi, Zeckler, we love
Hi,
you.
Zeckler.
We play Monster Hunter together. So, of course, after HP recommended Into the Real to me, I of course recommended it to Zeckler, and we chatted about it and everything. Which I
Hmm.
mean, Zeckler, if you want to join in, you're more than welcome to. So you can ask some questions, buddy. We'll get you
Yeah,
in here. I'll
absolutely.
send you an invite.
Oh, nice. Yeah, Dazzle's the best. Oh, it looks like Zeckler has read Into the Real.
He
Thank you.
has.
Glad you enjoyed.
He has. I him and we talked about it, and he was asking me some questions. I was like, dude, just wait. Which I can't wait for the audiobook for Through the Storm to come out whenever.
They're working on it now.
Yes,
Yeah,
can't wait,
same narrator and everything. So
because Bane has put out some really good books recently. So
yeah,
I wanted to
yeah. I
promote a
mean,
little bit.
Monster Hunter Fever was fantastic.
I need to reach out to Larry because I want to get Larry on here to talk with him because
Oh
I
yeah,
love
I'm
the
sure he would love. Oh yeah.
Monster Hunter International is so good. And Joel, I know, would freak out, which Joel's my co-host. He couldn't join us
Yes,
tonight.
yeah. Well, did you catch the few nods to Monster Hunter Inc. In my books?
I did. I did.
Well, have you finished? You haven't finished Through the Storm yet, right?
No,
You're
not
still
yet.
working on it.
I
Okay.
am on page. Where's my bookmark? Ah, 59.
Okay. Well, at the end, there's going to be another. I don't know how many. I think there was 2 or 3 nods to Monster Hunter International in there, but there's someone with a gaming handle that may make you burst out laughing. So
All right. All right.
someone
So
actually already put it in like the Amazon reviews. They're like, I loved this name that was a nod to Monster Hunter. So that was funny.
my thing is when it comes to these books and everything, or like just the genre in general, because lit RPG is an ever-growing genre. We're getting new stuff on a daily basis almost at this point with the exploration, or not the exploration, the expansion of Royal Road and Royal Road
Yep.
finally getting a mobile app.
Yep.
It's becoming more and more popular. We're getting a lot of different developments, and lit RPG is definitely just the subgenre of progression fantasy.
Yep.
I love my progression fantasy, and everything's just all kind of related with it. And Joel and we've talked about a little rebranding, changing the name a little bit, which we haven't made that official announcement yet, what the new name's going to be if we decide to go with it. But we're wanting to, branch out to where we don't just talk lit RPG, but more of the progression fantasy aspects, because we do
Yeah.
discuss dungeon core, we do discuss cultivation, just
Yeah.
straight up game lit. And when HP came to me and was like, Rich, I found a book you're really gonna like. I was like, all right, HP, what you got for me?
Which one?
And she goes, Into the Real. And I was like,
Oh, nice.
all right, I'll do it. So I picked it up. That was my first read of the year.
Oh,
I was
nice.
done with it in under a day and a half
Oh,
on
wow.
audio. I couldn't stop listening to it.
Wow.
And of course, as soon as I finished, I was like, all right, Joel, you got to read it. He goes, I will. But it's not his cup of also really, because he cares more about the mechanics and everything than character
Yeah, it's
development.
not as crunchy as some lit RPG,
No.
and on purpose, because we're also trying to reach a generation of readers that is not as like keyed into lit RPG. Like I said,
Mhm.
kind of like John Ringo's people who've been following John Ringo for decades,
Right.
and who are just kind of newer to not newer to gaming necessarily because they were gaming in like the 80s,
Yeah.
but a little bit newer to like some of the more like crunchy aspects of the lit RPG. So a little bit lighter
We got Zeckler in here.
on the crunch. Oh hey, how's it going?
We just gotta wait and see if his mic's gonna work or not.
Uh-oh.
So I think Into the Real is definitely one I would recommend to people who are wanting to get into lit RPG, just to get that like nice taste of it without having to deal with the number crunching and all the super high progression.
Hmm.
Where this one is more of, I would say it's like a lit RPG light novel.
Yeah, and like originally 2 years, well, a year ago, 2022, when it came out, I was hesitant to call it lit RPG. I was going more with game lit, like
Hmm.
just as a more umbrella term, because I had read on like Reddit and stuff that you shouldn't call stuff that's not lit RPG, or lit RPG readers will be like, ah. But then, so just this past week at 20 Books Vegas, I was talking to Matt Dinneman and some of the other James Hunter with Shadow Alley Press and
Hmm.
Dakota Kraut. And so we were talking about what makes lit RPG. And most of them were like, it's lit RPG. Like lit
Yeah.
RPG, just in even the past year, has become a bit more of an inclusive umbrella term, even if it's not super crunchy. So I just wasn't calling it lit RPG specifically from the beginning because I didn't want to, disappoint lit RPG readers because there's not a ton of number
HP
crunching.
HP pitched it to me as lit RPG, and I was like, all
Yeah,
right, that's what I went into, and I
yeah.
will say I was not disappointed.
Okay, well,
I
good.
was
Well,
very thrilled with it,
well,
and
then
I
I'll call it
recommend
lit
it to people.
RPG without worry. Then.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lit RPG title. Zeckler, is your mic working? I don't think it is, buddy.
Oh well, we're here. We'll be here
Yeah,
for a while.
because I want to get his intake on this as well. Because I mean,
Awesome.
since he read it,
Yep.
let's see. Your mic's not working. Ah, crap baskets. He just
So,
messaged me
what
and said it
so
comes up.
far, up to page 59, is your favorite thing about Through the Storm, the sequel?
I'm really enjoying the character growth that I'm seeing. It's it's hard to say, but I love Lynn as a character. I think she is a great character, and I live for the character development. Pushing through, seeing them grow, and dealing with the hardships of everything. So that's one thing I'm really excited about. I'm excited more about the twist. I don't want to spoil the twist because I want
That's
people to
okay.
read Into
Yes,
the Real.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
I want to see more development on that.
So you definitely will in this book. It's probably not going to be
Okay,
as much as you want because everybody wants more, 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 more,
that's
and
fine.
you got to kind of like it's got to be gradual, But there is definitely, in the first book we had, like you said, a specific twist to surprise people with,
Hmm.
and so it was all very, I wouldn't say limited, but focused on Lynn's perspective.
Right.
And in this book, it definitely spreads out, and you get some other points of view, especially from Steve, who's you met in Into the Real,
Yep.
and from you even get a scene, well, not from Robert Crater's perspective, but you get to see Robert Crater in a scene, not interacting with Lynn, but like with Steve and like all his
Well, isn't that the
technicians and stuff.
beginning?
Hmm.
Isn't the beginning
Yes, the very beginning is actually like a flat. It's not really a flashback scene, but it's like
back to
it's a scene.
2009 in
Yeah, yeah, long, long
Lead,
time
South
ago.
Dakota?
Yeah, very long time ago. So you get a little foretaste there. But book 3 and 4 actually are going to be way more into that.
Well, I can't wait to add them to my shelf.
Yeah, well, I mean, 3 is being written as we speak. And we know what's going to happen in 4. It's just a matter of getting it all done.
I hear
Hello.
clicking. Zeckler,
Can you hear me? Hey, hey, hey.
we can see, but
Yay!
we can hear you. We can't see you, but that's okay. You don't have to have your
Yeah,
camera on.
I don't have my camera. I'm
It's
sorry.
all good. You're good, buddy. Welcome in.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome.
So, Into the Real was definitely like one of my favorite reads this year. Just and with it being my first one of the year, like I started it on New Year's Day,
Oh, wow.
and I loved it. I had a blast with it, and I actually was playing Monster Hunter Rise while listening to it. And then, of course, when the Monster Hunter now got announced for iOS and Android, I immediately screenshotted it and sent it to HP, and I was like, "You got to tell Lydia."
Yep.
And of course, you and I were in email tag at this point, trying to get
Yes.
back and forth with each other
Yep.
and trying to figure out a time to get you on because HP is the reason I found you and
Yep.
got you on the show. Was she was like, "Oh, you would love Lydia. She would be great on the show. You should do it." And I was like, "All right, let me see what we got." And my credit hit, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna pick up this book." And I loved it.
I'm so glad you did. Zeckler, do you remember, like, what was your favorite thing from Into the Real?
So I really enjoyed the old man that
Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Thomas that
Yeah.
Lydia, I believe. No, I'm
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, Lydia is you. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Lynn
Lynn.
Raven.
Yeah, Lynn
Lynn.
Raven.
Lynn Raven. I like that she connects with him, and he's kind of like, oh, I'm this older style gamer playing Pokemon Go, or
Sort of. I can't say
yeah,
the word Pokemon Go in it,
yeah,
but we all know.
monster catcher
Yes.
on the road, whatever you want to call it. I really liked his character. I thought he was a breath of fresh air. I really enjoyed the the chick that is just a terrible person and she makes her own team.
Elena
Oh
Seville.
my
Yes.
god.
I like that I hated her so much because I thought she added a good mix because
She
Lynn Raven's so easy to love.
she is. But Elena is like I want to say the nerdy Connie D'Amico from Family Guy. That's how I picture her.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate her. Get hit by a bus, please.
Well, I mean, you're gonna hate her even more in Through the Storm then.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
no,
boy.
I've already figured that I was gonna hate her. I mean, I think she's shown up in 1 or 2 scenes.
Yep.
What I've read.
She's
Trying to
not
think.
going anywhere.
Oh, I figured not.
You're gonna keep hating her.
Ah, great. But I will say that one of the most compelling things, and that's one thing that really just hooks me, is the cliffhanger endings and just the twists as well. And if you can put a twist into a cliffhanger and do it perfectly, you got me in for the next book. Your book did it. Pyre Souls Apocalypse did it. And I need more of those. I need more of those.
Well, we will do our best to help you out with that. Something that I like to do is called cliff forwards. So
Ooh.
I am personally not a fan of cliffhangers in the sense of I would say the thing I did at the end of Into the Real, or the thing that me and John did at the end of Into the Real, was a little bit more of a cliff forward than a cliffhanger.
That's
Because I
true.
feel like cliffhangers like just abruptly stop, like almost in the middle of a scene, and they're like, and what happens next? Whereas cliff forwards, I feel like, wrap up the plot points of that book and then introduce the plot of the next book in like a really compelling, like hooky sort of way. And I'm just
Okay.
more of a fan of writing those and reading those, because then it leaves you feeling satisfied with what you've already read but excited about the future, rather than like cheated. And
Right.
because I think there are some like more traditional cliffhangers that really leave you feeling like, "Arr!"
Firefly.
Yes. Oh yes. Goodness.
Damn you,
Yeah.
Fox Network.
Yeah, I know.
Or no, was that NBC? It was one of the
I'm
two.
not sure. I think it might have been Fox. I can't
They're
remember.
both guilty.
Yeah, they're both guilty.
They
I mean,
are.
NBC robbed me of Chuck season 6. I don't even want to talk to them.
Yeah. So that said, I'm more of a cliff forward type of person. And so Through the Storm, at the end of Through the Storm, I wouldn't say there's any really big like plot twists per se, but at the end of Through the Storm, you kind of get like the camera. So in Into the Real, the camera goes like Lynn, and at the very end, whoop, and then at the end of Through the Storm, it goes from Lynn, and then it goes whoosh.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So you get to
That's a
yeah. I
huge.
just stop talking. Stop.
Middle battle cliffhangers are terrible.
Yes,
I agree with
I would never do stuff like that. That is what annoys me so much.
Like,
So, go ahead.
go ahead,
Richard.
Zeckler.
Okay, quick question. Do we get to learn more about why these interdimensional creatures are hanging around power supplies so much? Like,
You
You mean in game, of course, Zeckler.
yes,
sorry, in
the
game, yeah.
So I'm trying to remember in Through the Storm. Yes and no and maybe.
Okay.
In talks with John Ringo, our plans are more along the lines of the unknowable boogeyman type of monster, rather than a alien species that in the game you like get to see face to face, and like you kind of learn their culture or like their reasons for what they're doing. So think of it more like, I mean, in Ender's Game, I'm not sure if you've read Ender's Game, but in Ender's Game, the Buggers, for a long time, obviously in further books that Orson Scott Card wrote, it goes much into the Buggers and you learn more about them. But just in Ender's Game, they're pretty unknowable. Like they showed up,
Yeah.
they attacked, nobody understands why. It just is, and humanity fought for its life or whatever. So I haven't written books 3 and 4 yet, so I'm not going to say no, but also,
Okay.
We'll see. Maybe if a bunch of people are complaining at me, I'm like, I want to know. Maybe we'll put something in there. So
I wouldn't say I was complaining about it, but I
no,
would
I didn't
touch
mean like
myself.
in a negative way. I love reader feedback, because I want to write what readers want to read, and so the more I hear from readers about what they want to read, then
It was more of an observation, because I'm like, man, are we going to figure out what's going on with the game mechanics? Because I would think
yes,
a game designer wouldn't want these kids to go near these like transformers,
Mm-hmm.
air conditioning units. I forget what
Yeah.
else she was
No, let
going
me at 'em.
towards.
Yeah, you
Let me at
notice
'em.
you notice how Hugo acts around those places? Miss
Yes.
Lynn, this may
Yeah.
not be the wisest thing to do.
Exactly.
Nah,
Yeah.
we going for it. We going for it.
So, yes, I would say you definitely get to learn more about the game mechanics. And that's
Okay.
going to be more book 4 than book 3, because Lynn will become more involved in the game and more involved with Robert Crater, the game designer, and his crew over at Tsunami Entertainment. But
Robert's awesome. I love his
honestly, if you
character
want to
too.
know more right now, did you know that I wrote a prequel short story and it is free to read up on Bane's site?
I did not know that.
I did not, but now I'm going to Bane's
So
website
if
really
you go
quickly.
to bane.com, and let me
Okay.
actually, the URL is a little bit too long to just like type out freehand, but if you go to bane.com, there should be like a search, way to search the site. If you just
Okay.
tap in there and you put in Operation Mall Stroll, um, and search that, it should come up. Woo! Bless you, somebody.
Oh, bless you, Mandy.
Somebody's
My
sneezing.
wife's yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, there we go. So if you just search Operation Mallstroll, so Tony, our editor, just asked me to write like a short story, really about anything I wanted relating to the world to put up. I think it was mid-October to help promote the release, and they were thinking about maybe releasing it as like a short story ebook, but they decided to just put it up free on their site. So you can read the
Okay.
whole thing free right now at bane.com/operation mall stroll, or you can just go to bane.com and look it up. And that's Bravo Alpha Echo Nancy Bane.com is
Okay.
the publisher's website. And so that I would recommend reading Into the Real first before you read Operation Mall Stroll for that twist at the end of Into the Real. Or if you're like, yeah, I don't care about spoilers, like whatever. You can just Operation Mallskull is set 3 to 4 months before Into the Real, and it follows some of the guys from Tsunami Entertainment and like some of the military guys in the background
Okay.
who are doing their stuff. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy that. I think it's like 6 or 7,000 words long, and it actually goes much more into the game mechanics. At least for the alpha testers.
Okay.
I'm down to read that. I'll have to.
Yeah, that's great.
I was having trouble finding it on the website, but I'll do a little more in depth search when I get done with the
Yeah, if
show,
you
and
just
also I don't have this little munchkin attacking
yes,
my
I was
leg.
going to say if you have someone, I'm kind of sad I can't do this at my house because I'm traveling in Colorado right now. But if I was home, I'd probably have 3 different cats like climbing on me and getting in
Yeah,
the way and stuff.
this is that's Solar, and then I have Lunar who's in the other room at the moment.
All
So
these are cute names, Solar and Lunar.
I got Lunar first, and then when I adopted her, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Solar,
Mm-hmm.
and I specifically got a black cat just for that because her middle name or her short name is Sol because I love Norse mythology, and Sol is one of my favorite goddesses.
Nice.
So,
Really cool.
so what would you say like some of the monsters from Monster Hunter would have inspired? Like some of the monsters we see in Into the Real.
So I will be totally honest here and let you know that most of my inspiration did not come in terms of these specific monster types.
Okay.
Did not come from Monster Hunter because um, the idea was that this game, TD Hunter, Transdimensional Hunter, is representing monsters because it is a global game, and it's very much for reasons that you guys know, and I'm going to kind of dance around. It must appeal to a global audience, everybody everywhere, not just the U.S., because they need everybody everywhere to be playing it for reasons. They integrated a lot of monsters from different mythologies and like traditions around the world. So, for instance, the Managals and Panagals, like I don't know how the audio book person pronounces it, but that's how I pronounce it. Who are like tall and spindly and almost like long dangly hair and almost chitinous, are from, and their names are from. I'd have to look it up to give you the exact, but it's somewhere in the Philippines or the like Thailand, like that kind of Southeast Asia area. The Tengu, of course, are inspired by Japanese tradition. I'm trying to give you some other examples. There's a Kongamatu, which you meet. It's a higher level monster in Through the Storm that is inspired by myths from African nations, which they believe was originally based on potentially like dinosaurs that natives saw like long, long, long ago, and then created myths about these giant flying monsters that were probably like pterodactyls or something like that. And I'm trying to give some other examples. Um, I have my file right here. I should just open it and look into my TD monster list. Okay, here we go. Bunyip, of course, is comes from Australia. The like the Spithragani or the let me scroll up. The Spithra and um, the Orcals, of course, are kind of like more European, a little bit more traditional. Like Lord of the Rings, I guess you could say traditional European fantasy stories. We've got the Rocks, which is like Greek and Roman mythology. I'm trying to see what else I've got in here. The Jaguar and the Stalker are a little bit based off of Native American myths. And, I could go on, obviously.
Right.
But me and John tried to like pick and choose some well-known monster myths from all over the world because we wanted it to reflect more of a global look at human tradition, specifically because the game, like in every country, the ads in every country, you don't get to see this because Lynn obviously is from the US, but in the ads from every country, it would be the ads would specifically have like models, and the people who are in the ad and like fighting the monsters would be people from that nation who were wearing like traditional warrior garb and warrior dress of that nation's tradition, because the idea is to appeal to all ethnicities and all cultural traditions all over the world, because for reasons we all have to fight together to save the world from the TDMs. So
That is true. And it's such a unique concept too, because I feel like I've only ever seen one other lit RPG do something like this that I've read, and I've read quite a few, and that was Monster Hut NYC by Harmon Cooper.
mhm.
Such a fun one. Yours, I think, is a little more easier for the introduction era of getting into lit RPG, though,
Yeah.
and it's a little more kid friendly as well. Where
Yeah. We try to keep it YA friendly. There's plenty
Mhm.
of times especially with like Steve and like Larry Coughlin, when we could have gone much more adult, but we tried to keep the cussing down.
I would say this is Into the Real and Through the Storm is definitely like the perfect like middle school, like high
YA,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, high school. We were mainly wanting to get like, high school gamers into it,
Mhm.
and kind of high school gamers into reading, because of course, people who are really heavy gamers, I think from the younger generation, are not reading as much. I think a
No.
lot of our older people who were reading before we really got into a ton of gaming are big readers, but I really want to attract people from like the high school age group, to remind them like video games are not the only fun thing to do, obviously not the healthiest thing to do either. And that I don't know if you've ever seen the meme online, this picture of like a person like in the shadow of a TV and like looking at a TV. It's just like a square TV, but then with a book, and the shadow of the book shows like huge worlds and great
Yeah.
imagination like springing out of the book. Kind of that idea.
It's a good idea, and I love that. So, I guess what would say was your big inspiration when deciding to write Into the Real with John? Did John come to you with the idea, or did you go to
Yeah,
uh
John came to me. This is originally an idea that came to John when the Pokemon Go app came out.
Okay.
And what's really funny is that John is an older gentleman, and he has a muse, and sometimes the muse speaks to him and sometimes she doesn't. And when she speaks to him, he writes like 24/7, and has been known to write like entire books in days, and then like
Wow.
won't write anything for months. He does something where he ideates different stories in his head for days, sometimes weeks at a time, and he'll just go over all the different scenarios that could happen, like in which one, like picking which one's the best, and he basically writes the book in his head for months at a time. before he writes it, and then when he writes it, it just all comes out all at once. And so he spends a lot of time in a cinder block basement. It is literally a cinder block basement.
Oh wow.
If you watch the Bane Free Radio Hour, which is probably going to go up in a week or two, the episode that we did together, he's sitting in his basement, and like, it is a cinder block basement. It looks like a jail cell. And so he was like, when he doesn't get out much, by choice. He's like, when Pokemon Go came out, he's like, I was inspired to like get out there and like go walk the streets and like play this new game that came out. I was really interested. And so for him, like the whole into the real theme of like stepping outside of your, your constricted little world,
Right.
where you're hiding from everything, and stepping out into the real, like that was kind of his experience with Pokemon Go. It got him out and about for the first time in a long time.
I think Pokemon Go did a lot of good for a lot of people. Like, because I remember when the game first dropped. Like, yes, in my hometown, like they made a Pokestop at one of the cemeteries, and people were driving around knocking over cemetery tombstones and everything.
Oh, no!
Like the actual cemetery like sent a letter to the company, was like, take us off now. Do not ever put us back on. And like they had patrols, and it was bad because like it was getting bad. But like the rest of the town, like we were going downtown, walking around. I mean, I still play Pokemon Go. I just have fun with it. Like I'll go out with a few friends every once in a while. We'll go to the bar, get some food, and then go out and walk around downtown. And like when the game first dropped, I remember we would all hop in my PT Cruiser. Yeah, I drove a PT Cruiser at this time, and we would just go out and play. And I mean, I got to play it a day or two early because someone leaked the APK file online. And I had an Android at the time, and I was like, I'll download it. And so like by the time like we first started, like I was level like 4 or 5, and I already had like Squirtle and a couple of starters, and I was like, yeah, I'm cool. And then I quit playing because I moved to the mountains in Colorado, and there were no Pokemon up there, like at all.
Are you still in the mountains in Colorado?
No, I moved back to Indiana.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say, I'm in the mountains in Colorado right now.
I was on the other side of where you're at. I was about 4.5 hours away from where you are. Because I was up by Winter Park and Granby area.
Yep.
Which, beautiful area. No Pokemon.
Yep, no Pokemon. Well, so when John had this original idea back in 2016, he wrote like an initial, like a seed of the story, where it's just like an idea comes to you and you start writing it down with no particular like bigger picture in mind. And it was about 30,000 words or so, maybe 40,000 words. And originally he was wanting to write it with his daughter because, I'm sorry for all the yawns, guys. It is not
your
name. 3 different changing time zones back and forth, and
you're good. We're almost done with the episode, so we won't keep it too much longer.
Yeah, you're fine. You're doing great.
So his daughter wasn't too interested in writing. Sometimes kids of writers like become writers themselves. Sometimes they're just not interested. But he wanted a young female co-author to write Lynn's perspective because he just turned 60-ish, like he's around there somewhere. Old, and he went to high school, but back in the 80s, and it was a long time ago, and so things are different now. And he's also not a woman, and he's never, had to deal with like being bullied in school because of, how your body looks and being a female in that respect. And that's, it's just something he could imagine, right? And he could have written like what he thought might have been someone's experience, but he wanted someone who actually had, who had that experience, who had so similar to experience to write that. So when his daughter wasn't interested, there were a couple other people like he had been chatting with, but then we met at a con in 2017, and he picked up my books and like looked through them, and we had met a little bit and chatted a little bit, so it wasn't like cold, like you just pick up the books. But what was funny is I remember he picked up my books and like kind of flipped through them and like paused on a couple pages. And his comment was, well, you don't make any of the mistakes that I hate. So that is my ringing recommendation from John Rango, is that I don't
make
an
the endorsement.
Mistakes he hates. I know. So he told me he'd worked with some other co-authors that he did not check their writing prose before he signed a contract with them, and later regretted it.
Oh no.
So he just checked my prose and like, oh, this is good. She's a good writer.
I will say that's one thing I do enjoy about Bane Publishing, from what I've seen, is there's a lot of class acts there.
Yep.
I mean, you have Tim Akers, you have Jacob Hollow, David Weber.
Have you seen any of Howard's new stuff? What's his first name? No, his first name is Howard. Is his last name Jones? He's a new sword and sorcery writer. Sorry, yes, sword and sorcery genre, fantasy genre. Howard Lee Jones or Howard Jones or something. City of Marble and Blood, I think is the second book in a new series that he's come out with. I can't remember the name of the first one, but they're
Howard Andrew
really good.
Jones?
Say it again.
Howard Andrew Jones?
Yes. Howard Andrew Jones. Yes.
Lord of the Shattered Land.
Yes. The Shattered Lands. It's really, really good. If you like sword and sorcery fantasy, you will love it.
Oh, my TBR is growing.
So long. I know. It does. It does that, doesn't it?
Well, and I'm getting into audiobook narration now, so I'm like, oh, my TBR is just growing.
I'm pretty sure it's in audiobook, so you should check that out. But anyway, yeah, Bane has some really high quality writers. And so John Ringo, came to me with the seed idea. I said, yeah, I'm very interested. I'd love to try this project with you. And so he sent me the stuff he'd originally written that we talked about. World building. He's a pantser. He just writes. I mean, though, remember, he does ideate it in his head first. Like, he does think about it a long time. He's not quite Stephen King style where he just like sits down and writes and writes himself into a corner. But he doesn't really outline. And when you're writing with a co-author, outlines can be really important to make sure you're both on the same page, pun intended. So
I get it.
Yeah, and so I did an outline based on our conversations about world building.
Pathfinder books.
And then he could not get Tony on board. Tony's our editor for a couple years because she kept telling him, "You have books under contract you haven't written yet. Go write those other books first." But finally, he got her interested, and I think we signed the contract in 2019, and I wrote my part of Into the Real in 2020, which was during the pandemic. Which influenced it. I did make some changes based on like the experience of the pandemic, and it really fed into even more strongly the idea of step into the real, after things have passed, and like go out and live your real life in the real world. So that's to answer your question. I hope I answered it.
Yeah.
No, I'm now looking at Howard Andrew Jones's stuff on Amazon because I was like, oh, adding these to the wish list now because I got to. I guess one last minute question, I guess, before we start wrapping up. If you could give like your just a little elevator pitch at what Into the Real is, and what if you like this and this would be perfect for you. What would you?
So Into the Real is about a high school prodigy gamer named Lynn Raven. Who is so good at gaming that she has a secret in virtual persona called Larry Coughlin, or Larry the Snake, as his enemies call him. And she is a mercenary in online first-person shooter games, and people pay her. They don't know it's a her. Brutal. They pay Larry Coughlin. Oh, she's brutal. They pay Larry Coughlin to come in and win their matches for them. Like, these are like rich people in like Wall Street paying her to come in and win their matches for them, so they have bragging rights. And of course, they can't fight with a darn. But they pay Larry Coughlin and wins their games. And so that's like her life. She just games in virtual. She goes to school because her mom makes her, but she's bullied a lot at school. And one day she is approached by Robert Crater, who is the CEO of the biggest gaming corporation around, Tsunami Entertainment. And he has designed some of her favorite games. In fact, he designed Warmonger, which is the one that she's most popular in, as Larry Coughlin. And he personally asks her to beta test a new cutting-edge augmented reality game called Transdimensional Hunter. And so she's thrilled until she realizes that augmented reality means you have to go outside where there's like sunshine and people
exercise.
And mosquitoes. Yes, and exercise.
Sweating. And
yes. And she's like...
People?
I know, people. Honestly, people is her main deterrent, is people. But Robert manages to convince her with lots of like perks and free swag and stuff, and they give her all sorts of like new equipment to use as a beta tester. And so she goes and beta tests this game, and it launches. And they announce like a tournament, and so like teams have to be organized. And she gets involved in this competition, and she has to like decide like what's more important to her. Is she going to hide in her shell and just, for anyone who's read the books, like Larry Coughlin is Lynn. It's just in Lynn as she's gaming, and then there's Lynn Raven like at school, and they're two separate like fractured personalities to an extent. And so she has to decide, if she's willing and strong enough to face her fears and face her insecurities and face the challenges in order to step into the real and
For sure.
achieve the dreams that she's always wanted. And that requires a lot of hardship and requires a lot of determination and it requires facing your fears. And so it is a book with a lot of great fun character development. I have a lot of fun with Edgar Johnson, who is part Samoan, and as that's one of John's favorite characters. This is John's creation, and he said he's never met a Samoan that he didn't want to be friends with. I've met a few Samoans; they're very cool people. And
For
so,
sure.
Lynn makes friends and she joins a team and she faces up to these challenges. So if you enjoy lit RPG, if you enjoy really great character development, if you enjoy reading a story about someone who like faces their fears and achieves great things, then you'll probably enjoy the book. And there's a twist at the end, as Richie has said. So that to
It's
look
a
forward
good
to.
twist.
Oh yeah.
It's a really good twist.
I really like the Lynn Larry duality, I guess you can
Mhm.
call it.
Yeah, you
And,
could call it that.
It's a good
and
duality.
and then she's like suddenly she just turns it on and she's in charge and telling people what to do. People are respecting her, and then she goes back to the meek girl, that the meek Lynn, and then she lets people walk over her again, and then boom, Larry comes back out, and she keeps barking orders. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to ask before we wrap up: would you ever consider writing in the Warmonger, like like a short
Ooh,
story or like just like a
yeah.
spin-off novel of Warmonger?
Oh, that would
Because
be fun.
that world is so cool, and I would buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Because
That
I
would
feel
be
like
interesting. I think what that would be would I could pitch Tony maybe as a promo between Through the Storm's release and the release of book 3. I could because wrote Operation Maelstrom, which you're gonna go read as soon as you get off this. I'm assuming
probably, yeah.
because it's a short read. It's a short story. Um, since I wrote that and they paid me for that, Tony may be interested in doing something like that again, doing another one of those short stories, and I could set that one in Warmonger and feature Lynn and feature Steve and feature Yoda
Oh,
Master and some of the other characters.
I'd read it as that, but I mean, even if you did like an actual full-length novel of Warmonger,
No,
that'd be so
I don't
cool.
know about that. I mean, like it's certainly possible, but also there'd have to be demand for it because any
Yeah.
publisher, like that's how they. I mean, we got to make money because if we don't make
No,
money, like your authors don't eat and your employees don't eat. So
that
if
is
I hear more
understandable.
people asking for something like that, it's certainly an idea I could think
Y'all,
about
go
pitching to
go
Tony.
to Bane. Go to Bane Books right now on Twitter and just say, "Hey, we want a
Just
Warmonger book. We
mention it
want
in
it.
every review.
We
On your
want it." Yeah,
5-star reviews, just mention it right away.
in big bold letters. Warmonger book
Yeah,
win? Question
yeah,
mark.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
For
we'll
sure.
see. We'll see.
Let's do it. I think it would be a fun one, especially
It would be a very interesting world.
if you incorporate like the stats and the menu items and the
Yeah,
system in. Oh,
yeah,
it would work perfectly. It would
yeah. It
work.
might be a really good lit RPG.
It would be a good lit RPG, and I live for my lit RPGs.
Yeah,
Of
it would be
course, we
sweet.
all do.
It's what we love. And I mean, we have, and that's the other thing. Like I said, it's an ever growing genre and always needs more books.
Yep.
Even though my book backlog does not need any more books, it needs more books.
And I love that it's an AR lit RPG, augmented
Mhm.
reality. I think it's a totally different spin. And Richie said earlier, it's an excellent like first step lit RPG. Like I'd put it in the same range as Bushido Online as a like if somebody came up to me and they're like, "Hey, I want to get into lit RPG, where should I start?" I'd be like, "Well, what are your interests?" And I think like I would definitely recommend this. I'd recommend Bushido Online. And there's some other books, of course, I would recommend for a good jumping off point, but that's just like in my opinion, it's just like a
Yeah.
quick like this is what you would like, right?
I have a list of, depending on what they say. Like I'm like, the what I ask are, do you want in game? Do you want like in
Yeah.
real world
Yep.
playing game? Do you want apocalypse or do
Yep.
you want time travel? Because there's
Oh
a
man.
few time travel with RPGs as well. And depending on what they say, like if they say like real world playing a game, I'm like, okay, so here's the good two ones. You have Completionist Chronicles, and then you have Into the Real. If you want Apocalypse, boy, oh boy, you're going brutal right off the bat. Go with Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yes, I was about to say Matt Denman. Like, if you didn't say Matt Denman, I was going to be like, no, Dungeon Crawler Carl is the best Apocalypse. And the reason it is so good is because, unlike, for instance, something like Viridian Gate Online, well, that's not exactly Apocalypse. Apocalypse is what creates the game world.
Yeah.
But I love Dungeon Crawler Carl so much because the stakes are so involved in like real world and humanity and like humanity survival, which is what really, like, what I really enjoy is when the stakes are very real and very personal and very connected to the character's heart and what they desire and what they love.
And that's the thing, like with Dungeon Crawler Carl, I put that with the Apocalypse, or I'll put System Apocalypse by Tao Wong up there. Viridian Gate, I put the in-game aspect because
that's true, yeah.
uploading, and I put it up there kind of like with Completionist Chronicles because I love Dakota and I love James, and I love the book they wrote together for the Bibliomancer, which is
fantastic. Oh yeah, they did that one together, didn't they? Yeah,
they did that in Libero Hexer, which follows the Wolfman Warlock. I love it. It's so good. And it's narrated by Nick Podell, which is even better.
Oh,
I love Nick.
Times. Fun times. Well, I just saw James Hunter and his wife Jeanette at 20 Books last week in Vegas, and I saw Dakota too.
I got to hang out with all of them at Dragon Con. I mean, I was hanging out with all of the Lit RPG people at Dragon Con. It was so much fun.
Well, Matt had his own little like party for like Dungeon Crawler Carl, and he had this huge group of cosplayers.
At Dragon Con, we did the Lit RPG Under the Sea event, which was such fun.
I heard about that.
I got
David
to work
was there. I had to stay home with kids, so
he probably saw me if he was at the RPG Under the Sea event.
Did. Yeah,
and I actually, when I was coming home, I was going through like my stuff and everything because I was like picking up stickers. I actually have a Cat Magic sticker.
Oh wow, nice!
I do. It was there. It was on like one of the tables. And I was like, Cat Magic. That seems really familiar. Where do I know that from? So I picked it up, and as I was coming home, I was like, oh, this is Lydia's thing. Yes.
Yep. Well, if anybody likes tabletop games, then you should definitely check out Cat Magic the Game, which is designed by my husband. It's based on my urban fantasy series. It's the Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus universe, where there's Sir Edgar Allan Kipling, magical talking cat extraordinaire. And he's the familiar of Lily Singer, who's a wizard. And this is like modern day urban fantasy, magical adventure, snarky humor, and a talking cat. And it's kind of like if there was a sliding scale and Harry Potter was on one end as like really YA, like really wholesome, bright urban fantasy, and then the Dresden Files were on the other end. It's like super dark and serious, and like a lot of like people die, and it's great. I'm kind of like right in the middle. I'm in the happy medium between those two. It is about adult characters. And it's got situations, people facing, kidnapping and demon possession, and like things that adults have to deal with, but it's got the lightheartedness and the humor and the YA appropriateness of Harry Potter. So some people have called it Harry Potter for adults, or like, if you read Harry Potter as a younger person and now you're like, you want more Harry Potter, go read the Lily Singer Adventures. But there's a spin-off novella called Cat Magic, where Sir Kipling, the talking cat, goes off on his own adventure because his wizard Lily goes away for the weekend. It's like, sit, stay, be good. You don't tell a magical talking cat to sit and stay. And so Sir Kipling puts himself in charge of the magical library over the weekend. And of course, nefarious forces like try to break in and steal artifacts. And so he has to save the magical library. And so in the game, he deputizes you, the human with opposable thumbs, to build the artifacts. You have to collect 5 items for your unique artifact. And then you're like trying to sabotage each other and steal each other's items, and, like build alliances and like gang up on this one person to keep them from winning. And then like try and complete your item behind your back. And then at the last minute, swap your stuff with their stuff and be like, whoa, ha, 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 I win. So it's a really fun 2 to 5 player card game. And yeah, my husband designed it, and we sell a ton of them.
Where can we pick these up at?
On our website. Richie, I don't see a place where I can like type in the comments.
If you type it in the private chat, I can copy and paste it.
Okay, here real quick. So I'm just gonna open up a browser window and then copy and paste it. So store.
So
you can.
It's funny you say that because you just brought back a blocked moment in my mind of what my pitch for what the third Spider-Man movie should have been for Tom Holland.
Unlocking core memories.
Oh my god, it's a core memory, and it's what it was is Spider-Man Home Alone, And what it is
So
he has
Home Alone.
yeah, hold on, because home has to
Oh,
be
go
in
ahead.
every of the titles. That was their thing. And give me 1 second here. Got to copy and paste this. So what it is he has to like watch the Avengers compound,
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
and
that would be hilarious.
I don't think. Oh, I don't think it did it properly. Hold on.
I mean, I don't
So
know. I see it show up as a comment.
it shows up as a comment, but I don't think
Oh, but
the link will work.
you ran the words together, and so the
Yeah.
link isn't going to work. So you got to separate game and opens.
See, that's how the link came through.
Okay.
So here, I'll try this again. But the premise would be he has to like stop it from
Stop some villain from getting in.
the Sinister Six from invading the Avengers compound, and he has
Okay.
to do it by himself.
Home
And that's
Alone.
when Toby and Andrew come in to help him. And I was like, that would have been so much fun. But
That
I
would
mean,
have been
I'm
hilarious.
still like happy with what we got for No Way Home, because that movie, even though it's not the greatest thing, it's a fun one.
Yeah, they did a good job. I enjoyed it.
So, thank you, Paul. It's still showing up. If you guys can copy and paste it, just copy and paste it over.
I mean,
And
I'm seeing it. It looks like it showed up without the extra text this time. But also, if you
yeah,
just go to store.lydiasherrer.com, it's on our front page. That's just the direct link to the purchase page. So,
Okay, great.
and we also have game mats for it, which are adorable and
I need to get me
beautiful.
some game
If
mats.
you're a game mat sort of person, I
I need a
will
new one.
drop. Well, so this is a game mat specifically for that game. So you should have to collect 5 items to make your artifact. So it is a 5. It's like the width of 5 different cards. So say you were playing like Match
Oh,
the
Timothy
Gathering.
found it.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's got pictures from the game and stuff on it. So yeah.
Okay, I see the game mat too. That's cool. That's very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited.
if anyone gets it, please leave us a review on, I think it's called Game Board Geek, is the review
Okay.
site for games, for tabletop games.
Well,
'Cause
can like stores order the game?
so gaming stores would just contact my husband David, and he will sell it wholesale, and we'll ship out like however many units they want to purchase from us wholesale price.
Okay.
And
'Cause-
his email, and I'll just put in here real quick. It's david@lydiasherrer.com.
Because I
So
have
if
a couple of
anybody,
game stores here in town that
yeah,
are
absolutely.
always looking for new games, and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect.
Yeah, if they just shoot him an email and let them know they're a gaming store and they want to order some games wholesale, he'll work up an invoice for them and we'll ship them out.
All right.
Excellent.
We
Well,
we run a pretty big operation. We have 14,000 copies of my books in our basement and about 3,000 copies of David's game. And we just ship stuff out. We run our own online web store, and we just ship stuff out directly to readers and people who want to play the games.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we have plenty of copies. We actually just got a new print run. So our initial print run was 3,500, and we sold those out in a year. And so now this year we got a second print run of 3,500. So
all right.
Wow.
yeah, if anyone wants to know about game design, please email my husband David or find him on Facebook. Yeah,
Well, I think we're gonna do one of our new segments next year for our 4th season, or 4th level, as we like to say. Is we're gonna bring in like different people to do like kind of switch it up a little bit. So we might do a game design episode, because Joel is into game design and writing. So I might reach out to David for that one.
Yeah, well, we've got 2 more games in the works right now. I actually just sent art specs to our artist for an expansion for Cat Magic. We're probably going to kickstart that next June, and then he's got a game called Outflanked. That's a bit more of a bigger, complex game that we're hopefully going to be kickstarting maybe late 2024. It may wait till 2025. It just depends on how fast we can get the art done.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to start wrapping up here. And Lydia, we want to thank you for tuning in or joining us tonight. And I'm happy we finally got you on. I am.
Yes,
This was
we've been trying for months. Yeah, email tag and just missing each other and the dates. And well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
One of the games.
Oh, nice! That is awesome. Well, enjoy it.
That is
and
Timothy
please
McGowan. He's one of our Lit RPG authors. We loved him.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was going to say that name looks really familiar.
Arcane Knight, Lastborn of Dykath, and Nexus Guardian. Those are his series.
Wow. I'm looking him up right now.
Eldritch Knight.
McGowan. Okay, I'm looking him up as we speak. Oh yeah, I recognize those covers. Okay.
Oh, the covers are beautiful.
Hopping over to your website, Timothy. Okay, so
Yeah,
anyway, thank
Arcade
you so
Knight's
much.
awesome for sure.
Um,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, Timothy, if you would, after you play it, jump on Board Game Geek and leave a review for the game on Board Game Geek, because unfortunately, nobody really knows how to leave reviews for games. And Board Game Geek is, because it's on Amazon and it's not like Amazon reviews. So my husband always like, please tell them to ask for a review on Board Game Geek. I'm like, okay.
And also, if you read Into the Real and Through the Storm, please leave a review on Amazon or Kindle or Bane's
Barnes and
website.
Noble too, and Barnes and Noble
And Barnes
too,
and Noble.
because we want like the trad people, and the bookstores to see that people are liking it. And
Yeah.
I'm in a Barnes and Noble right now, and I asked the front desk to make sure it was okay. I said I'm like in like one far. These two are bookshelves right behind me, and there was a couple copies of Through the Storm here that I signed for them when I came in. So
Did they have any
that's
copies of
sweet.
Into the Real?
yes, they had one
Awesome.
copy of Into the Real on the
Yes.
shelf that I went ahead and
See,
signed.
my Barnes and Noble's always sold out of it, so I haven't picked up my physical copy of it yet. And I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
you bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Richie. It's been. Oh, hey, you guys want to say hi to David real quick?
Yes, let's say hi to David.
Yes.
Here, put the headphones on. I've been talking up cat magic.
Hello, David.
Oh, here, you gotta
Hello,
go.
how's it going?
Hello, David.
Hey,
Great.
can you hear me?
Things are great.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can. Can you hear us?
All right. Yes, I can hear you guys.
All right. We just want to say hi and also good job on Cat Magic. It looks like a lot of fun. I actually came home. I'm pretty sure. Did you put out stickers or like postcards about Cat Magic at the Westin? at
No,
Dragon
I
Con?
did not. But
I got one.
I was giving them out at Dragon Con in the Westin.
Then you
so
might have
somebody-
handed me one. We probably crossed paths and didn't even realize it.
Maybe.
Because I had a random card for Cat Magic in my bag when I was leaving.
Yeah, I was giving them out. So I gave them out to
Oh.
pretty much everybody I saw.
So we probably crossed paths at some point and just didn't even realize it.
So
Nice,
you
I
weren't just walking around sticking them in random people's pockets or anything, or
I mean,
No,
hey, it could have gotten
I
that
could probably-
pickpocket skill up.
I could probably do that. I used to be a
Yeah.
street performer. I used to do magic
Hey.
tricks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the party tricks I used to do was sticking random spoons on people so that everybody else
That is
could see it,
amazing.
but nobody else could. Or the person I was doing it to could not see it, but everybody else did.
Wow.
That is amazing.
I
Yeah.
think my record was 57 spoons.
Holy crap. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, she came back mad the next day. She found them.
I might have been a little peeved at that point too, but that's fair. That is fair. But that's freaking awesome.
We do have to get going.
Apparently, we have to get going.
Well-
I just came from a gaming store. I noticed there was a gaming store next to this place, so I went over and talked to them and
That's awesome.
watched a few people play Magic.
Well, I told everybody to get your game and put reviews on Board Game Geek.
Oh yeah,
And so-
absolutely.
We've been
put a review
plugging it
on
in.
Board Game Geek
I'll be
because-
reaching out to you at some point next year because we're going to do an episode about game design between
Awesome.
my co-host and a game designer person. So we will be reaching out to you at that point when we get
somebody
that
just-
going.
Somebody just put in chat the place to review. On
Yep,
Board Game Geek.
that's Paul. He's one of our new followers, but also good, just a really good guy. So
Awesome.
he's been helping out.
Oh, Lydia says she's
Well-
stealing back her headphones.
All right.
All right. Thanks, David.
All right. Well, Lydia, thank you so much. We will wrap up here. And
Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks
It's
so
been
much.
fun. And thank you so much to Zucklor, who joined us, and to
Yeah, absolutely. My
Vern Tup
pleasure.
88 and to Timothy McGowan, who were in the comments. It was lots of fun interacting. And Richie, I'd love to be back sometime again. Maybe
will
when
have you
book
back.
3 comes out, or just to talk about like David's game. Maybe David could be on.
Yeah, no, I have a
and
couple
really
of
looking
things in
forward
the
to it.
works up here. So,
All righty.
all right.
Have fun. Thanks,
Everyone,
everybody.
have a great night, and thank you for tuning in. This has been Stats on Stats. Please join us tomorrow for a special episode with Zach Johnson, where we will be talking about Shadow Agency. So,
Woo.
tomorrow night, tune
Be
in.
there.
Toodles.
Swear.